Good evening. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Budget Committee of the Board of Estimate and Taxation for July 2017. And the first item on the agenda is an executive session to discuss a piece of litigation.
And I would move that we go into executive session.
And I second that move.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right. So sadly, I have to ask you to stand in the hallway.
So I'll move that we take ED2 for the BOE, a gift acceptance out of sequence.
I second that.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lash.
You're welcome. I just want to get over there in time to see them grill you.
Thank you for making time for us today. We appreciate it. Just to provide a little bit of context, by the way, this is Gus Lundin. He's our athletic director at the high school, for those of you who don't know. Laura Erickson and Debbie Applebaum are also in the audience. You may be aware that the Board of Education has in process at the moment an assessment of all of our facilities, including athletic facilities. Athletic facilities is one of those areas that have not risen quite to the top in terms of capital investment. We've been investing in other things, schools we need to build, and the maintenance, the general maintenance of buildings, and so on and so forth. There is an organization of a group of concerned parents that has coalesced themselves into a new group called the Greenwich Athletic Foundation. Their mission statement, their president is a guy named Rob Burton. They have a board. It's comprised of a number of different interested groups interested in advancing youth sports, particularly in Greenwich Public Schools, but also through Parks and Rec and so on and so forth. That's their mission. They're a 501c3. They've established themselves. And it's very helpful from the Board of Ed's perspective because it's brought together a set of disparate groups into a single voice, much like the PTA Council may be or the Greenwich Alliance for Education. It makes it easier to hear advocacy from that group of interested parties. They are interested in having public-private partnerships with the town, particularly with the Board of Education. And as you may be aware, they gave a first gift for a new sound system at the Dorothy Hamill Rink. That went through Parks and Rec because they're in charge of that facility. Their purpose in that was primarily to provide dramatically improved facilities for Greenwich High School hockey and other youth services. The second project, they have been in dialogue with Gus Lundin about the needs, prioritizing the needs of Greenwich Public Schools in athletic facilities, particularly at the high school. We are in the process, as you may recall, of replacing the floor of the Greenwich High School gymnasium. That project is underway. It's being done this summer. And as part of that project, we have bleachers. You may not be aware, but we have bleachers in the high school. They're 30 to 40 years old. They're a large wooden structure. They fold up against the wall, and then they're extended. As part of that project this year, I wish Ron were here to, unfortunately Ron Matten couldn't be with us today, but he would explain it. They are being de-installed, if you will, whether they're moved within the gymnasium or taken out and put in a hallway while they do that. But anyway, they're being de-installed. And as part of this project, the Greenwich Athletic Foundation has made a very generous offer to gift to Greenwich Public Schools a new set of bleachers for the high school. So you have that package before you. Just by way of information, the Board of Education will take this item up this Thursday. So we realize we're a little bit out of a sequence, and we ask you to be patient with us on that. Board members have already received the package, reviewed the package. We've submitted a series of questions to the administration, some of which I'll talk about in a little bit of detail. But the Greenwich Athletic Foundation would like to gift us new bleachers. They asked us they could either give that to us as a gift as real property or as a gift of cash donation. We prefer the gift as cash donation. Purposes, then it puts it fully under the management control of the Board of Education, but they are indifferent. They are very cooperative with us, and they have offered to fund this completely. What you have in the package before you is the bid and the proposal for the bleachers. It's from a vendor that we can buy directly off of the state contract, so it's a pretty straightforward kind of bid. The bid is good, I believe, until the 1st of September in the document. And the bid has an initial of about $89,000. There are two other options in there, one adding to a little more than $15,000, which is the deinstallation and disposal of the existing bleachers. And there is also an option to put a logo on the bleachers, which they would like and we're planning on exercising. That adds up to, if you add it up, it shows about $110,000. The question that we have before the administration is some of the deinstallation cost that's listed there exclusively is included in the existing project. So we want to get straight what money is where and where that money's coming from. It's not a significant amount of money, but that's a question that the board has to the administration that we're looking for clarification on. And another one was clarification about the 10% contingency. So given that we're before you, before the board has actually taken this up, our request to you would be an acceptance of a gift up to $122,000, which is 110 plus a little more than 11,000 as a 10% contingency. We will arrive at the final number before the full BET meets this Thursday, because we will be taking this item up at 6 o'clock on Thursday, and we expect to have the final resolution with the final number based upon the questions that we've asked for clarification from the administration. So with that, that's a summary of what the project is, and we'd like to take any questions you might have.
So you would place the order shortly.
Yes.
The bleachers would be delivered when?
The bleachers will not be delivered in time for the volleyball season, which is in the fall. Our objective is to have them installed in the fall, and they would, if we work it right, they'll be available for when the basketball season starts, which is a winter sport.
The material said something about installation in November.
Yeah, correct.
It would be in between the fall and winter seasons.
It would be important to me that you be the customer. I don't want to take a gift of the product for exactly the reasons you were describing. I would like to have control, that we're the vendor, we have the right to go back to the vendor on something that goes wrong later on. Who analyzed and selected the product? Was that done by Ron Matten and our people?
Correct.
We're not relying upon the folks at the Greenwich Athletic Foundation to have decided which product and which model of their product and which design features. We've done that in-house.
Correct.
Okay. Those are the two
I
concerns
think
that
it's
I have.
also important to note, Jeff, that the proposal was from a vendor. The supplier of the bleachers is also a subcontractor in the bid. They were the subcontractor we already selected
Yeah.
for the deinstallation. So
Yeah.
they're not, it's kind of helpful to know they're not an unknown vendor to us.
And
The
the
second.
quote is written to Gus at Greenwich High School, so it
Right.
didn't appear to me
Right.
that there was an intermediary of the
Right.
foundation.
The second part is, as I said, we had a little board email exchange last week with Jill Gilday, our new superintendent. And, because she's new and she was asking, do we have to go to bid? Where's this vendor? Who is this vendor? She's asking all the right questions, which is great. And we were pleased to know that this is a vendor that's already on the state contract, so it's not somebody we've never heard of before.
And I think you may have responded to this, but the scope and the size are what the high school would want to be installed in there, that there aren't compromises you're making in the selection of the product or the size of the product.
Not at all. It would be exactly what we would replace our existing bleachers with if it went solely through the Board of Education.
And I think there, Gus, just for clarification, I know we have a certain number of seats with the bleachers that we have now. We're going to have a little bit different
little fewer.
number.
Correct.
Yeah. So it was a question that multiple board members asked as well. But we're relying on the athletic director to tell us, is that a sufficient number of bleacher seats?
Right.
The thing is well-used not only for games, but it's also used by the outside. Greenwich Youth Football League uses the gym for their cheer competition and so on and so forth. So there are other users in town beyond just the Board of Education.
As one who has sat in those bleachers several times, I think this will be an improvement.
We haven't tried the new ones yet.
They've lived their useful life. They've served us well.
So this is the first example of the use of the new budget resolution that
Yes.
the BET and the RTM approved, well, respectively, in March and May. And I think it's great that, the opportunity for public-private partnership exists here, and for something that, was needed, at least based on the materials that were provided to us. So I think this is great. Probably just about the right size of a project to begin with, the implementation of this particular resolution, and gives you the experience of using it. And, it sounds like it's good for all parties, so, I think it's very positive. I will say that in terms of the approval, I would like to make sure, although the BET approval will follow later on, that, it's subject to the approval of the BOE on Thursday, and perhaps even also subject the release, for the actual contract, at least a confirmation by our financial controller, Pete Minarski, that the money is in-house. Just to, and okay, we do that on other such projects where the money is
Sure.
coming from an outside source.
Sure.
Can I ask for a clarification? Maybe I'll hear it in your motion. You're saying is subject to release.
Well, Leslie,
How does that work?
it won't really, or subject, we need to make sure that the BOE approval comes, but remember, we will be meeting, as Peter sure said, on Thursday after the BOE will have met. So this is just sort of protecting us in this budget committee.
No,
But
that's up to-
it won't happen, as I understand it, you'll be emailing Michael Mason, or there'll be some kind of communications, or someone will be sitting in the audience to
We'll
say
call.
that it's been, confirmed.
Yeah.
And so,
Leslie, excuse me, my clarification is not on the subject to release or subject upon the Board of Ed approval. That's clear that that should occur. It was your second comment, which talked about a subject to release prior to having the cash on hand.
Yeah, I
And
gather,
don't want
I
to set
interpreted.
something up that,
I didn't say subject to
Okay.
receive, but just, I think that, that in the past, Leslie, sometimes we get confirmation, when the money is coming from an outside source like this, that the money is in-house, and Pete just more or less confirms it.
so it's not tied to our approval, from what I'm hearing
Well,
you're saying.
Pete, how have we
or-
done this in the past? You just know, before they start the project, you just confirm that the money is
Should
in.
get a communication, probably from someone in the finance office in Board of Ed.
Right, and I think it's easy
Well, that-
enough as long as we explain it to you. I don't think it has to be terribly
But does
complicated.
it come back to us?
Oh, no, it just, Pete
I
just
understood-
checks off that the money is in-house and they
I
proceed with their
understood your
project.
comment to be, because we're taking a sizable gift, it's a sizable item.
Yeah.
please don't begin the project until you're certain that you have the receipt from the Greenwich Athletic Foundation.
Right.
I think that's what you meant, but
Right.
if I misunderstood
No,
what you
no,
were saying.
No, that's what I said, and
Yeah.
Pete just, just send Pete an email that the money is in-house and you proceed. I don't think that, shouldn't be too complicated. It should just,
And I would encourage you.
I thought you were asking to come back to here.
no, not at
Okay.
all.
Or we can take the 120,000, divide it by 12, and you guys can handle it.
We're not planning on starting doing anything with the project until we have the proper confirmation. I think we're very, you made a very good point. This is the first time we're trying this out without it going all the way through the RTM.
Right.
This is the right kind of project to do that. It's pretty straightforward. And, we want to say particularly thank you. We know we're in a little uncharted territory. We know this is one of those meet in the summer things, that's exactly what Mike Mason's original idea was designed for, and we appreciate that. So, we know we're in some uncharted territory. We also, as you might recall, for those of you who were there, we stood before the RTM and reassured them that we would be overly deliberate with the controls that we already have in our policies and procedures in the Board of Education, and we're going to be very diligent about that.
So there's
Yeah.
no blue sheet on this, Pete, but when it comes to the full BET, can we have a blue sheet and have it mentioned, first of all, the 122,000 that Peter Scher was just
Yeah.
mentioning to us, and also reflect the two conditions that Leslie was
There
asking?
there is a blue sheet, but I have a question, if, okay, through the chair to Gus and/or Peter.
Sure.
Is the additional funding to remove the bleachers, is that coming from existing operating funds? Or is it are you requesting an additional appropriation for the removal cost?
No, what I meant to say, Peter, as I wasn't being clear, is that there was an existing appropriation for the project to replace the floor at the gymnasium.
Okay,
Contained within that project is some small amount of expense to deinstall the bleachers that are there and then reinstall them, okay? And what I don't have from Ron, from the administration, is how much is that? It's probably, I don't know, $5,000 or something. It's included in this bid, a deinstall and disposal. What we think is there's some overlap
okay.
in terms of a small amount of, that would be, I guess, capital expense, right? And what we don't have from the administration, which we expect to get when the Board of Education takes this up on Thursday, is a ticking and the tying of where's all this installation money? Do we actually need this full 15,000 that's in this bid? Or is some of that contained in another bid? We're looking to get that clarification. We don't yet have it. It's not a large sum of money. Just for the purposes of transparency, we wanted to be sure you were aware of it. Because from our view, some of that's already been appropriated, and it's already in a project that we have.
Okay.
And we would not want that duplicated. We wouldn't ask the Greenwich Athletic Foundation for that money either if it's not money we would need.
But what we're authorizing here is just the acceptance of the gift. Are we authorizing the expenditure of the money on the purchase?
No, that's not what I just heard. You're authorizing up to $110,000 for a gift.
To accept the gift.
I think he just said that it's already an existing appropriation.
No, we're appropriating.
So you need to
So
increase this
we're
110.
authorizing not just the acceptance of the gift, but we're authorizing the expenditure at up to $122,000, but not more than the amount that we receive by way of a gift, plus the amount that's already been appropriated for the deinstallation and reinstallation of the existing bleachers.
Right, and we're not, I want to be very clear, this is a good point, Mr. Raymer. The Board of Education is not asking for an additional appropriation on the town beyond what was already in this year's capital budgets. The only thing we're asking for is an approval to accept the gift and the gift money from the Greenwich Athletic Foundation and nothing more.
Can we know what the figure is that's in the existing appropriation
Yeah.
before we meet as a BET
Sure.
on Thursday evening?
Yeah. There's a project sheet in the book somewhere. I just got to figure out what it is, and we can get it to you. We could also probably get you, because that was originally approved as a project. There's probably a lot of
This would
project
be-
detail behind
This
it
would be
now. I'm
tidier
sure we
if
could
had
get that.
firm figures.
Yes, I'm sure we could arrange that.
Okay. When does the school board meet to approve this project?
The school board will meet at 6 o'clock 2 days from now on Thursday. And then,
Simultaneously with us? We're meeting at
yes, and then
6:30.
our plan is, talking to Mr. Mason, I spoke to Mr. Mason,
You talked to him.
we're either going to walk across,
Okay.
we're going to communicate to you as quickly as possible, because he said he would like to take it up in the meeting rather than schedule an additional special meeting. So that's why we scheduled at 6.
So it might be that it gets moved to the end of our meeting or something.
Yeah, but we are planning to be there and communicate. And by then, the exact final number will be known.
Did you have something else?
I wanted to add one other thing, and compliment you on having a contingency too, because I think that's a good discipline to start out with on these projects, to create the contingency, so thank you on that one point. And then just a final sort of question. I assume that once this project is completed, especially since you have the extra abundance of caution in creating the contingency, that any overages or money still available under this appropriation, will it be returned to this foundation to put towards the next project? Or what happens on that?
I
Peter,
think
have
that-
you
I thi-
all
I think
looked
that-
at that, or
I-
what the process would be? Or, I think that,
I would
I mean,
think
you
that
wouldn't
would-
want to accept more, but I don't know what the process is for the town. So that may be something you need to talk with the financial people, Pete or someone else about.
I will confirm that. I believe that's been our practice, particularly in these kinds of scenarios where we're taking gifts of cash in lieu of gifts of real property, which, our policy accommodates both, but we prefer it this way because then we have, as we said, greater management control. But the Greenwich Athletic Foundation is pretty clear about what the gift is for. They are quite anxious to work with us to look for other opportunities for public-private partnerships. So we expect an ongoing relationship with them, but we won't change our practice. We're going to do this one gift at a time, and each gift is going to be clear what it is.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And this isn't the first time the school system has received a gift of cash.
No.
So if
It's
there's a
normal practice,
practice of
yes.
returning the money to the donor to the extent it's not spent, then we would assume we would expect you to continue
It's
to
very
follow that
similar.
practice.
It's very similar when we do this. We've done this, as Ms. Moriarty will tell you on your committee, we've done this many times with PTAs, particularly for school playgrounds and beautification outside buildings. As you know, we took a gift, you approved it, from the Greenwich Sports Foundation for a scoreboard at Cardinal Stadium. This is pretty normal practice. I just don't know off the top of my head exactly the mechanics of the question you're
Yeah, I mean,
asking. It's a
often
good
what
question.
happens is you have the signed, kind of the contract with the vendor prior to the cash being contributed, so you know the donor knows
Exact
the
number.
exact number that they need to move over. There isn't that uncertainty in returning cash, but that would be the right practice if that were to occur.
Especially since you have this abundance of caution with the contingency. I mean, it's only to the town's benefit, but I would hope that the money be returned and then move towards the next project.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll speak after you. I'm a little unclear then, what's the amount exactly of the appropriation that we're authorizing to be spent? The amount of the dollars coming from the foundation is a fixed number at 110, without regard to what you already have appropriated for the installation and deinstallation of the old bleachers.
Yeah, if you read in the document, if you read in the bid, it essentially adds up to 110, and then later in the document, in the document from the administration, I'm sorry, in the beginning, it says, it's in paragraph 4 of their memorandum. It says, "The administration recommends that the Board of Education accept a cash donation of 110, which will be used to purchase and install. The gift will include a 10% contingency for any unforeseen costs."
So does
So
that
what
mean-
we were trying to do is, that's the question that we've asked our administrators, because if you look at the actual bid document, it adds up, you take 89,
It's 110,024 without the contingency.
it appears that way. So that's why our understanding, and talking to Rob Burton, they're prepared to fund the whole thing. I mean, I had a conversation with him from vacation. So my
the
point
whole-
is,
The whole thing's 122?
with the 10% contingency. So they're prepared to give us a gift for 122,000 to cover the whole. to the point of the contingency, what we need to do is clarify this exact number. We also need to close off with the GAF to make sure we're all on the same sheet of paper about what the number is. We will
Of
do
their
that.
gift.
Yes, and we will do that before our meeting on Thursday, so that when the Board of Education takes it up on Thursday, all of this detail will be ticked and tied.
So
That's the reason I made the point to you, it will be up to 122,000.
Okay. And the full BET will have that number.
The actual end number. There won't be an up to number when we come to you with the request.
So the amount of the expenditure will be the 122, the amount of the appropriation that we're likely to be approving. Looks like it's going to be about 122,024 minus whatever is the already appropriated money.
Precisely.
And the amount of the gift that we're authorizing will be a slightly different figure. That'll be the amount of the 122,000 or whatever turns out to be the actual number. And we'll have both those numbers by the time we.
And what may wind up transpiring is when we're all done with the project, right, and we don't use the contingency, their gift will wind up being a lower number.
So,
Does
because
that,
we
does that,
have-
does that help, Mr. Reamer?
That helps.
Yeah.
because we haven't used this process before, I just want to be clear in my mind. We're authorizing them to accept a gift for the purpose of the bleachers. We're not appropriating money. Are we
Well,
appropriating
yes.
money?
Well,
No,
yeah,
but-
in the
but
Z fund.
Let him answer the
Yeah,
question.
the answer is yes. You need an appropriation to spend,
They need an appropriation
No,
to spend it.
we-
No, we're
yeah.
not spending.
but it's on our books. It's in the non-bond Z fund.
Well, we haven't done this before. I'm trying to understand exactly,
It's in the
What's-
resolution that you need
Yeah,
to add to the appropriate capital account.
Yeah, it's,
so,
right.
all right. So then we're authorizing them to accept the gift
Yes.
and for that purpose and for the and the money to be put in the Z fund and the appropriation to be for whatever amount we decide on at the next meeting.
Exactly. You'll have an accurate number Thursday night.
Right. And the resolution that enables
shall
this
become
already says, and the money shall be applied to the appropriate accounts. You're asking a question that I don't know the answer to because some magic happens in the
That's why I asked.
finance department. We get the money, we hand it in, and they go put it in whatever accounts it's supposed to be in.
All right. So then I need a motion to authorize the school board, school system, to accept
Board of Education.
Board of Education to accept $122,000, a nominal number for tonight's purpose. It may be a different number on Thursday. And
From the Greenwich Athletic
from the
Foundation,
Greenwich Athletic Foundation for the purpose of,
installing bleachers in the
purchasing,
Greenwich High
installing
School
new bleachers.
gymnasium. Yeah.
and appropriate that money, deposit that money in the Z fund and appropriate it for this purpose from that fund.
Correct.
Okay?
Yep.
There are no conditions on this. We're going to take this up again. at the
Yeah, you
full
won't take
meeting.
formal action until after we do.
So
Right.
we'll have whatever information we need to have at that point.
I would like to make sure, though, and just have, it doesn't have to be in the approval, that Mr. Menarski will, you'll coordinate with Mr. Menarski just to notify him
Sure.
that the money is in-house before starting the project, signing the contract, actually signing the contract.
We have no objection. to that.
And he doesn't need any further approval, but, it's been a process we've used before. So,
Because you would only get to do it some other way once, and then we would never trust you again.
so you
Yeah,
made the
that wouldn't be a
motion,
very
I'll second it.
helpful outcome.
I was trying to get all the words together,
So, Mr. Lash
what he said.
put my words together, and I move that particular motion.
A second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 400.
Just by way of, thank you very much, Mr. Lash, for taking us up on such short notice. It's a nice partnership between the Board of Education and the Board of Estimate and
Don't
Taxation.
get
We
too
appreciate
used to
it.
that.
There will be other times. Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you. All right, so now we'll return to our agenda in the sequence in which it was imagined. And that brings us to SE2, release of conditions on $30,000 external development marketing. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
So,
To recap, you voted in favor of our Greenwich PR initiative and put the two stipulations on that we are to go out and raise the $70,000 from private sources and also present a work plan from the Lou Hammond Group, who is the company that we have identified as the ideal partner and agency to bring forward this effort. Both of this you have received in your emails, I trust.
I didn't see the work plan.
yeah, it was in the attachment.
Sorry.
It wasn't, it was a separate item. It was sent out separately.
Sorry. I picked up my paper and hard copy, and that wasn't copied for me, I guess. Do I borrow yours? Sorry, thank you.
So we have, our sheet shows you our commitment letters. These are only showing the commitments for year one. We actually had structured, if you look through the commitment letter, multiple years, and many of the contributors actually have taken us up on that offer because it's widely recognized as something that they would like to see as a multi-year process. We have shown you there about $78,000 of funds raised. We are actually higher than that currently. And again, our commitment to you was that we would be here today with $70,000 in commitments.
In addition to that, we have established the 501c3. We have our letter of acceptance from the Secretary of State under the name Experience Greenwich. We have filed the application with the IRS, and we're awaiting approval of that.
Mr. Tessie, anything you'd like to say?
Sure. First, if you've not met Robin Kensal and Sabine Schoenberg, they are just two members of what is an ad hoc committee, the First Selectmen's Economic Advisory Committee. You may be aware that there are two other ad hoc committees, one that deals with people with disabilities in Greenwich and the other that deals with community diversity. This committee's priorities have really been segmented into three areas over the last year. The first has been an ongoing dialogue with firms and individuals from China who have expressed interest in learning more about Greenwich and establishing relations with Greenwich for mutual exchange. The second has been the PR initiative, which was born out of frustrations, I think, on the part of folks who felt we needed to do a better job of telling the Greenwich story in light of some of the negative publicity that has been generated with the environment in the state and that had now cascaded into Greenwich. Third, the group is going to be looking at soliciting feedback and providing constructive feedback on issues of concern, not only to the business population, but primarily as we prepare for the next POCD. So when you hear about what is the EAC doing, you can follow it by thinking of three buckets of activity. Those buckets are what the committee, as volunteers and meeting once a month, have committed to. For this particular initiative, Sabine and Robin have assumed the leadership role as the executives of it. They have gone out as ambassadors of the initiative to procure the funding and then provide feedback not only to me but to other members of the committee. So in terms of internally, we're getting a lot of commentary from other folks on the committee. Not all of them are in the same industry. Some are financials, some are real estate, some are consultants. We now have the new head of the Chamber of Commerce involved. So again, the plan is for the first 90 days is laid out for you in from Lou Hammond, which was provided. And as we've looked at this, we've also recognized this is not a novel idea. As much as we like to think what we do is novel, it is not. Fairfield was a community we looked at in terms of having a distinguishable web address and location to go to find out what's happening in Fairfield. And I think part of what we're working toward is establishment of that, along with a very targeted campaign in promoting the town. And we're open to, and I'll just say, as I think you know, individually, you know me, in terms of thoughts and feedback, we're open to any and all. I think that's what makes this exciting, is that we've been able to really harness a lot of the talent we have in town who come up and say, well, did you think about this? And so there's been a reservoir of people who are interested in the idea and like it, and like the fact that it's positive, that, you know, we're promoting something, given all the negativity in the world that we seem to be inundated with.
And as you probably saw in the work plan, the firm will be preparing and we will be distributing monthly what they have achieved for that month, and that'll go out to all our supporters.
If you're willing, I'd be delighted to see that too. I don't want to make your
Yeah.
mailing list bigger than necessary.
No problem, I'll be
It's usually one of the
emailing.
hard things here, not on this application, but when you're coming back in future years, which I think you probably will be for funding to be carrying the process on, there'll fairly naturally be a question that occurs of, well, give us a sense of what it achieved, what were the deliverables and things. And this is the kind of subject area where it's a little hard to answer that question. It seems logical people ask the question, and then frankly, unless you know something I don't know, I just think you're going to have a hard time trying to figure out exactly how you show what this achieved.
That is a challenge, and we're aware of it in day one here. So we have thought about it and thought about how we can answer that and hopefully come back with deliverables. We know the answer in terms of the media company, what their deliverables are. That's clearly defined. You saw all the work that's gone into defining that very clearly, but we want to go beyond that. So let us come back with it at that time. We're very hopeful and have talked to our contributors also and have said, look, we're all in this together. Tell us, if you are a hotel owner, have your front desk talk to people, why did they choose to come to Greenwich for a weekend, for example. It's just even these testimonials that can speak to that point. So we are aware of
And
it.
just to add on to that, so our supporters have also said, you know, we could probably get a sense of a baseline. So just like a hotel, you know, what did it look like of September 2017? What does it look like 2018? So yes, it is multi-year and it does build, but we're all thinking that way. Let's get a sense of a baseline, and then let's see how we can read real impact.
This conversation a year from now.
Exactly.
So something positive is always good, right? But I do have a question. I'm not sure which Peter I'm going to ask here. The way we approved this is to the Office of the First Selectman and not to external entities or 501c3. So Pete, is there, you know, we obviously see this appropriation sheet in front of us, or Roland, I don't know which one. Is this set up in the right manner? So, I mean, how do we layer you in here, Peter, to make sure that our process is working?
Just a release, isn't it?
It's,
Well, we're releasing it to
It's in-
Peter Tessie's department,
Yes,
the Office of the First Selectman.
it's in his budget.
Right.
So it will just be released and spend it out of his budget.
And so he can just write a check
Yep.
to this organization, and there's no other process that one needs to go through. He has the money. He doesn't need to have a specific contract or any kind of specific bidding or anything else. It's in compliance with our processes. Okay, thank you.
We did that tonight.
First, congratulations on the success
Thank
in
you.
getting the donors and the support. I think that speaks to everybody's hope for a successful outcome here. One of the things in the condition talked about the objectives, and I went back to some of the documents you gave us in February, and I picked up the February 13th one, which talked about to rebrand Greenwich from a Pearls and Mercedes reputation to a place that is contemporary, full of amenities, diverse, sophisticated, and where people want to live, to influence people looking to move to the tri-state area to select Greenwich, and to make Greenwich a go-to place for high-end shopping and dining and personal resources. And I wanted to know if you've refined the goals, or are those still the overall objectives?
I think that is one objective. As you see in the work plan from the Hammond Group, it all starts with a strategy session here. We want to really get very, very, very clear and defined on exactly what the message is. I think when we met in February, since then, there's one other big story that's come into play here, which is all the financial mess from the state. And I think we actually want to make very sure that we also highlight very much what folks like you are doing to help this town insulate it, protect it, and bring forward the amenities and the lifestyle that we have here. So there's a lot to take on, and I think that's one slice, certainly.
And, yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
Leslie, those 3 objectives are still very much in place. We're just adding the 4th objective, which relates to what's come down in the last couple months with the negative press on the state.
So,
When you figure
Is
out
it-
how we've insulated the state, let us know.
as it comes down to, often when you start on projects, you have to select, you can't accomplish everything you initially set out to do. So how is the decision-making process set up in this? And I know it's new, but there's the outside organization, the 2 of you that are leading, and the main relationship contact with Lou Hammond. It comes back to the group, but the town has a stake in what the messaging really is. And have you worked out how that will proceed?
Yeah, so a couple of things, first of all, that we didn't talk about. So we also have a slate of officers. Besides Sabine and I, there is a secretary who has a marketing background. We'll have a treasurer, but we're also going to have an advisory board, and those will be people from the town who have a specific marketing and PR background. And we're having a strategy session with them this Thursday to review the work plan. So as we start out, the first couple of weeks will be talking to stakeholders, talking to the community by the firm so they get a sense of what the town is about. And then from there, they will start refining what are the key messages, what is the key positioning. And that's available, that will be available should you want to see that.
And Peter, you feel you have the necessary input or veto power as the
Yes.
directions are going?
It's a good point. I think both Robin and Sabine recognize that the support from the town is critical. The town government, as the town's chief elected official, representing the citizenry and working in tandem with you, I think we're clear that we're going to be in tandem and following each step of the process so that what's put out has the blessing of the town. I mean,
Yeah.
because ultimately it is the town in which we all are fiduciaries. So I think we've set up a nice arrangement now. I think a lot of it, again, is coming back to communicating so everyone's clear what it is. But that is a key point. I mean, now the Pearls and Mercedes was sort of an interesting
Yeah,
descriptor.
It
and
came
I-
out of our research, actually. That is that was a
quote
statement.
from someone, but
Yeah.
it's interesting when you go around and talk to people. I mean, there's the common thread about Greenwich, premier residential community, and all the attributes that we all know. But then there are people from different generationally who will give you slightly a different perspective from what they find appealing. And then I also think what we're experiencing, and this is actually getting picked up through the POCD process because they've already had like a focus group where they've interviewed what people want the town to be. And there's those who want to just kind of snapshot, let's keep it the same, and those who want to keep it the same but recognize that change occurs and you must adapt and manage it. And I think that's what we do here at the government. We all do it because we're not only are we forced to, but changes abound. So finally, I'll just say I think this evening a common thread is public-private partnerships, and that's something that we all have experienced. It's one attribute that the town that is strong, and I will continue to advocate for and salute as I continue in this position because it's not the case in many communities. And when people hear about it, they're very envious. And they say, you're so fortunate in Greenwich that you have citizens, entities that want to give. And as long as that continues, I think we're we're healthy. That's a good health check for us.
I have one last comment, Jim, if that's okay, and that is that reading the timeline, it's aggressive, so I wish you all the best. There's a lot of work to be done.
Luckily, we're not doing the actual work. They've got a big staff.
Good.
And again, I just want to reiterate gratitude in supporting it and having faith and giving it an opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
Again, we want to be positive and promote positivity in our world. doom and gloom.
All right, so we need a motion to release the conditions.
So I'll move to release $30,000 for the first selectman, $30,000 marketing plan, program.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
4-0. Thank you. Great job and not very much time.
Yeah, we worked fast.
You did.
Do you want to deal with this question of routine at the end or something?
Well, we can do that now.
Leslie, with your motion, the 30,000, do you want that to be routine or?
I mean, I don't know whether we have the authority to release conditions. I thought the release of conditions had to go to the full BET. Does that make it routine or not routine? I'll make it routine. I'll make it routine.
And I have the same question about the $122,000 that we looked at a moment ago. You want to call that non-routine?
I think that should be non-routine. It's a new initiative.
Sorry.
Yep. Good. All right, EM1, approval to use a $62,089 Homeland Security grant. Mr. Warzowa.
Mr.
Chief.
Lash, good evening.
We still call you chief? You're once a chief, always a chief, right?
Hail
Nice
to
to
the
see
chief.
you.
Thank you. What you have before you is a approval to use of a 2-year cycle of the Emergency Management Performance Grant that the monies have finally been shaken loose from both the federal and state trees, and we expect to see these funds sometime in the next 2 weeks. So we want to get the process started here. The Emergency Management Performance Grant has been used by the town of Greenwich in the past for such projects as the Barm River Gauge and multiple years of maintenance on that particular piece of equipment that has served us well with the flooding down there. And we use that as a real-time tool now on a daily basis. What we're proposing in the spending plan that you have in front of you is to do training exercise with the first portion of the grant, and then to complete some communications projects that actually date back to the demolition of the police building and when the Emergency Operations Center used to be over here in the Town Hall meeting room. We've now transitioned the EOC over to the Public Safety Complex. However, down in the electrical closet across from the Town Hall meeting room, there's a dual radio set. And one of those radios needs to get moved from this building over to the Public Safety Complex for use in both the EOC and in dispatch. And the other communications component of the project is up in the EOC as part of a best practice we found that's worked from both the 2011 and 2012 events. We have a dispatch station where information comes from dispatch directly to another dispatcher in the EOC, and then we can funnel it out to organizations that need to deal with it. So this is just trying to make a better practice better. So I'll take any questions you have on the spending plan.
So why was the radio here to begin with?
Because we were demolishing the Public Safety Complex, the old police building.
So it was
and-
located here because we were doing the demolition of the
And,
fire.
and the EOC was here at Town Hall at that
In
time.
the Town Hall meeting room.
Yeah.
It's $24,000, $24,006 actually of your money is being used just for the relocating and installation of the radio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a complex project because you have to pull the unit out, you have to put a new antenna up on the roof, you have to run cable down into wherever the radio room sits, and then run cable down into dispatch, and then run back up to the EOC so you can actually use the radio in both locations.
I mean, I suppose you're the expert, but there's no good thing that we're giving up by having this be located, first of all, in a place separate from the public safety complex in case there were to be some terrible event there.
Well, see, we're not giving anything up because we purchased a duplicate set, knowing full well that when we move the Emergency Operations Center, this building here would be, one, the backup emergency operations center, and two, would be used as a continuity of government center. So we will have the exact same radio capabilities that are in this building now still remain.
Oh, so you sort of have two radios.
We have two radios, yes.
And that got to my other point, and that was to the extent that one would be looking for the first selectman or other people like that to be closely involved with the emergency management, or whatever words I should be picking down. That could still exist because they could be here at the town hall and working with this other radio that you speak of.
Quite candidly, there's a radio head in the first selectman's office that we test every quarter, and he can get on that radio anytime he needs to, and can talk to the state, he can talk to Metro North, he can talk to the Coast Guard, so.
So in the past, when
They
we...
discourage us from doing that.
Yes, so I'm sure the Coast Guard does. Are you, so in the past, from my limited experience, I don't have any really much experience, but it seems to me that we've had these major disasters, you've been set up in the town hall meeting room, and that's been a center of operations. That would change now going forward, that kind of activity would be down at the public safety complex?
We transitioned over back in 2010 to work out of the public safety complex. Now, the fire site obviously hadn't been built yet, but the space existed for the EOC over on the police side. And that's where we have all the components for the Emergency Operations Center today. So
in the recent major events, you have not been in the town hall meeting room?
That is correct.
Oh, so my recollections are ancient history. Okay. Sorry.
You should go spend a little time in the EOC when we have a live emergency. You very quickly realize that being face-to-face with people is what you need to do if you're going to keep things moving quickly instead of bureaucratically, which is what's required in an emergency.
And that's the point of being down there?
And
Yes,
that's
it's,
the point of being there.
we've been cited through a community resilience program as one of the 8 top communities in the United States for the way we conduct operations in these kind of events. So we just want to keep that best practice moving forward. And as we look forward to the 2016 grant application that we've got in and waiting to hear from the state, we'll be back before you with a spending plan for that particular tranche of money. And we really think that we want to focus on resiliency and some incident command training at, not so much at the higher levels of staff, but the foremen, the mid-range managers, people who are out in the streets doing when it's happening, just to make sure the lingo is the same, because I see a gap there.
It's worth spending a little time there. They will let you in if you're nice.
I get nervous going to the police station.
Yes.
Hi, Danny, thank you for coming here. Can you just explain on this, a little bit of this, the table talk exercise? I mean, not too much, but who the students are, and, you know, I'll just give you a little preview. $4,000 for refreshment and lunch sound like a lot of money. Maybe we should lend them Elaine Brown. I think she can probably do it for less money.
Well, it's 32 students,
Per
3
class,
days,
yes.
3 days done twice.
Well, I did it in my head, and I
Okay.
thought, well, gee, Elaine could probably do better than that. But anyway, can you just tell us who these students
Sure.
might be? Just give us,
The students are going to come from all walks of Greenwich government, not just fire, police, EMS. It's across the board. In fact, if you'd like a spot, we would save one for you.
well, I might take you up
You know,
on
and
it.
it's, I mean, when you talk about finances, what we went through with Sandy and the work that Ron Lally had to do was eye-opening to a lot of departments. And when we had the feds come in here and they looked at our documentation, the people who were doing the first blushes were fairly impressed at how the way this town was moving from the finance side. So it's critical to me that people from finance are intimately involved in this kind of training. This training comes from an outfit called BOMAC, and they work out California, Rochester, New York. We actually saw them make a delivery at the Fairfield County Fire School up in Fairfield, Connecticut, for our regional partners. And they bring in this whole tabletop city which they have one stored in Meriden at the State Police Training Academy. And they'll set this thing up, and we will sit down with them and come up with several scenarios that we want to explore. We've recently, between the Board of Ed and the town, fire, police, EMS, have done some decent tabletop operations. But that's using maps and GIS stuff. This is actually small structured buildings. They can tailor them to what Greenwich looks like, grades, topography, those kind of things. And there's certainly enough challenges and opportunities that face us as a community that we need to have everybody at the table, and we know we can't do it just once. We're going to have to deliver it twice, and I think it's a very dynamic program. Captain Gray and I were both at the Fairfield program and felt this was the best bang for our buck we could get everybody trained.
Thank you.
My only question or observation was, it sounds like the radio project is a pretty important one to improve the efficiency of the response, and you had to wait several years to get the funding. I don't know what compromise we made internally by not having that funding, and I wouldn't want you to wait for something that's critical to the
Well,
organization.
Again, part of the deal with the radio is, on the state side, it's a requirement of the EMPG, and they actually let us slide a little bit, if you will, because they knew we were building a new public safety complex. And all those radios, the stuff downstairs was all bought with federal money and has been maintained with federal money. So my position was, we're going to move it. We should use federal money to move it and not intertwine it. We've got enough big communications projects for public safety going on right now, and this is a clean way to get it done.
In future, you said there are several, or at least one grant application in the pipeline being held up. Is there something of this kind of project on that list, or is that more, that's more the training dollars?
It'll be, my vision anyway, is that we want to continue down the road with training and exercising and developing the staff, if you will, to be able to deal with these kind of events, because it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when we have the next big event.
So Pete, this is an approval to use. I only asked the question because the justification says the first selectman is authorized to apply for and accept grants, blah, blah, and such grants shall, in the future tense, become appropriations upon approval by the Board of Estimate and Taxation. But these aren't coming back to us for approval to spend. We're giving the approval to spend now. We're authorizing the acceptance of the grants. We're also authorizing the expenditure of the money on these
You're
purposes.
creating an
It's
appropriation.
not coming back to us
Right.
again.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the grant fund.
Right.
Okay. So can I have a motion?
I'll move that we accept that.
I'll second the
All in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
And I'll say routine.
Yeah.
Routine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they're taking
400.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. The next item is,
It's very low.
Oh, no.
you doing Board of Ed?
Good afternoon.
Transfer
Oh,
of food
it's evening.
service money?
Oh, yeah.
81, huh? Is that next?
Day goes by fast.
We can do HD1.
You're not next.
I'm sorry?
You're not next.
I'm not next? Who's next?
Not unless you're the food services money.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm thought.
No.
You're next.
There he is.
He's right here.
You can't let them push you out of the way like that.
Come on down.
Not in town hall. In town hall, they have to, if you don't fight for your spot, you do not get it. All right, sorry.
That's okay.
ED1 Board of Ed, $18,766, transfer of food service salary money. You're up.
Good afternoon. This transfer is to basically close out the 100s, the major object total. We overdrew that entire line by that amount. Even though we moved it into the 101s, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines make up that major object total for us. If you know, I've been in front of you guys before, so you know a little bit about our program and how we've run lean for many years now, reducing our employees to basically become more streamlined in our expenses. What that does for us, though, is it leaves us with vulnerability on a daily basis sometimes when it comes to operating the food services. We have basically one person for one station. When we have absentees, and we do like any other organization, we have to bring in substitute workers, and we do have substitute workers that we work with. They're ex-employees of ours, and they basically know the system, so it works out well for us. In most cases, it's a wash when we bring somebody in like that, because the person that we're replacing generally doesn't have any sick time left or something like that, but on some occasions, they do have sick time, and then we're basically paying both the employee to stay out of work and employee to cover their shift. On top of that, we had several FMLAs this year where an employee is out for a long period of time, and we keep in touch with HR and trying to get them back as soon as possible. But this year, we had 2 that were gone from January 1st through the end of the school year. In addition to that, we had one of our full-time warehouse workers fell out of his truck in late March and broke his femur. And that set us back on our heels, because that is a very important position for us. What we had to do was bring in a custodian who works at the warehouse, who used to work for us, and pay him time and a half to cover that shift. I worked with Jim on that to let him know what was going on. We tried many different options to cover that position, but it was something we had to do at the end of the school year. In addition to that, we increased our sales in catering this year by almost 20%, 21%, and with that, we had to bring in extra labor to work those particular events. So that part of it worked out for us financial-wise, but it also drew down some line items that we didn't expense for in the beginning of the school year. So all said and done, it's about a 0.7% increase of our total line item there, which to me doesn't seem like a lot, but I know to you guys it does seem like a lot, because nobody should be overdrawing a major object. So
No.
and that's where we're at.
But you wouldn't be the first guy to do that.
I wouldn't be the first guy to do that. My point was, in working with Jim towards the end of the school year, I knew we had enough money in certain line items to make the transfer.
Jim Rick.
Yep. I personally wouldn't have transferred it from food, because it looks suspect, as we asked you guys for a $70,000 appropriation earlier this year. But there was money in other line items. Our 415 and our 335 had a combined amount of about $36,000 left, so the transfer could have came from those 2 line items, and we would have left the food one.
In total, you ended up,
In total, we were supposed to return $212,000 or reduce the fund balance by that. This year, our unaudited, we're going to probably reduce it by $357,000. So we're in the right direction. It's a lot better than it was expected to be.
Better is to come to us as you're anticipating the event rather than after it's overdrawn.
I agree.
That's always an issue for us. Department heads, et cetera, are not authorized to be spending money beyond that which is appropriated, and you commit us to that. And so it has an awkwardness for us.
Mm-hmm.
When you lay out the justification, it would be better to give us the additional detail to talk about the filling in for people with injury, because I really wasn't understanding why hiring people to cover people who are out on family leave would produce the $18,000 of additional expense. But as you explained, sick time on people, that you're paying these people for the time they're out, yet paying the people that come back, then I begin to understand how the money gets incurred.
I have a detailed a detailed breakdown for each line item that I thought would be talking points. But I have that in writing if you need that.
Can I just,
Thank you.
I'm curious whether, I know that the change in to ADP has reduced some information to the Board of Ed in some areas. Do you get up-to-date information on your salary line that you're able to manage this and see where it's going?
The interface between Munis and ADP continues to be a struggle in terms of everything in Munis that hits ADP is hitting the major object line, the 100s. It's where it's falling in those particular breakdowns of our line items. So we have things every day. We have, like if a cook one who's a lead at one of our schools is absent, we usually bring the food service worker. The food service worker will work that shift, and then we have what's known as out-of-class pay based on our contractual agreements with the GMEA. And therefore, that could hit the part-time line, it could hit the full-time line, it could hit the overtime line. And it's tough to differentiate that. And the Munis input that's being pushed in the ADP is not exactly clear on some things, so.
Other questions?
Yep.
All right, may I have a motion?
I would move we approve this item and call it a routine item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Health, HD1. The Health Department. You are next. $6,300 approval to use MRC funds agreement.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to introduce the department's business office manager, Deborah Edwards. She's come from the private practice industry, and she's working towards helping us do third-party billing, Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance for our services. So, welcome her. I'm sure she's going to turn out great.
Is that going to be a new revenue source that we didn't have before? Or
I'm
is
s-
that going
Well,
to
we
be a
do
new-
Medicare and Medicaid, but we have yet to get the private insurance companies up and rolling. So
Okay.
we're very hopeful that this year we're going to take on United Healthcare, Oxford United Healthcare, which is the insurance company that actually the town has gone with.
And very hopeful that Medicaid will still exist in a year.
Yeah, well, even these grants that I have to discuss this evening, whether or not they're going to be around. The first application is the Medical Reserve Corps funds. It is funding a grant that we usually get. However, this particular grant has come from the Connecticut Department of Homeland Security, and obviously with the situation that's going up at the state and the limited funding, it's probably not going to be happening next year. So we take advantage of the fact that we have $6,300. It can be appropriated to our permanent part-time public health emergency coordinator, who is the actual director of the program. And it comes very timely since we're almost ran out of the monies that we got for the state for her salary as well, the public emergency money that we have. So it's come timely to do that, and it'll just be applied to her salary and her benefits.
Okay. Questions?
I have no questions.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about the other one?
Well, I'll do it. I'll move that one and as a routine item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0.
Thank you. The second application is for the Shellfish Commission. The Department of Health does manage their funding. I don't usually move money from the restricted reserve account, which is their so-called bank account, into their operating, which is the 187, to pay expenses. I try to do it every other year. So you can see that we have padded a couple of accounts. The temporary salaries account, obviously, they do have someone working for them. And so, appropriation of $10,000 will get, I'll probably get a year and a half, 2 years out of that. Professional special services account, they are engaging in partnership with UConn to do a special program. And also they do get professional services from other vendors to do, videos for education purposes and so on and so forth. Advertising, they are heavily on the advertisement. They do advertise one particular program that they, I forgot the name of the program too. It's a big program out at the Point where they do have open house and demonstrate to the public the shell fishing, recreational shell fishing activities, and they put large ads in the newspaper to draw the public into demonstrating that, and very expensive. Mileage allowances for the temporary salary. that's supportive, miscellaneous services, anything that really isn't covered.
What is NOC?
I'm sorry?
What does NOC mean?
Not otherwise classified.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Office services, obviously, just routine, I don't even know what goes under there, I apologize, but.
The office services.
Offices, yeah, office program materials, motor fuel and lubricants for the boat that they have, parts for the boats, brand-new boat, I don't know why we keep having to buy boat parts, but I guess that comes with the territory. And the maintenance, of course, they're expensive ordeal, having a boat. I sign all the all the expenses, but, it's amazing. We just bought a new boat not too long ago, and I guess it's breaking down. And then the Social Security, obviously, is for the temporary salary. So we're moving $55,500 from the reserve account into their operating, the 187, to cover the expenses of the program. And I'm confident it'll probably cover us for about 2 years.
So, Peter, Roland, my own ignorance, where is the Shellfish Commission in the budget? I couldn't find.
It's not, it's like the Harbor Commission.
Yeah.
I see.
It's
No
on the
money
balance sheet.
appropriated.
So do they come? Is there a point at which, and my Alzheimer's has blocked the memory of it, that they've come and run out their anticipated annual budget for the year, and we've
No.
looked at it?
No, there's no money appropriated for the town, there never was. They had gotten an appropriation from the state to start up the Shellfish Commission. Many of the commissions in the state have gotten the initial grant from the state, and then they draw their savings or their funds from the permits that they sell for the shellfishing program. So it's covered by state statute in terms of.
So we said to the Harbor Commission, or the emerging Harbor Commission as it exists now, not very long ago, to come to us with what amounts to an annual budget. And we thought that was important. Maybe there's other bodies like that we should be doing the same, but it seems to me there should be a consistency with how we deal with these entities. By the way, this request you're requesting now for $55,500, does that constitute like an annual budget for this agency?
No.
So, I mean, you'll be coming, so theoretically, I could be anticipating that you'll be coming piecemeal for this sum and that sum, and at each time, I don't know how many times I'm going to be seeing you for what amounts of money.
2 years.
Because you've never shown me a budget for the year.
There isn't a budget. We supplement the monies, as I said, the monies that they receipt into their bank account, so to speak. Their receipt account is from the funds that they get from, for selling their permits. And so they're operating, when it was initially established with the grant from, and I'm going back probably, I can't remember, but I was the Director of Environmental Health at the time that set up the program. The grant from the state actually established the actual operating 187. And from that point forward, the monies that they get from the sale of their permits go into their bank account, and then to supplement the program, activities, we move the money from the receipt account into the operating, so it's self-sustained.
Which is what you're asking us to do
Right.
now.
It's a multi-year fund. It's not like the general fund that ends at the end of June 30th.
Right.
Everything closes out. It's a multi-year. The monies stay available as long as they have a balance. And they come in every few years.
Yeah.
When they need money, they come up with what they want to do, and then they come in for.
About how much money do they receive a year into that account?
Probably, I want to say 30, maybe more.
We have the one attachment shows, I think, the balance, which shows a change of
They have,
107,000 in a year, right?
in their net balance, they have $316,963. I can't answer, I can't answer, it, maybe Ron can.
It's about $100,000.
How much goes in on a yearly basis?
Right.
Because the tickets,
It's around 100,000.
the permits that they sell go from the town clerk's office, go right into the receipt into the account, so I don't see that.
No, you don't see it at all. No,
Oh.
nobody sees it. It goes into the account.
Okay.
Then they come to you and you come to us and ask for $20,000 or $30,000 a year.
When I see things are running low.
It comes out of that.
Right.
They have plenty of cash.
Oh, they have plenty of cash.
What's on the balance sheet?
Yeah, they have plenty of money.
So you're not wrong. It would be useful.
351.
It's a policy issue. I mean, I don't, I don't know if you want to start solving policy issues this evening. I see a logic to be consistent with agencies.
Yeah.
But
It would be useful to treat them the way we're going to treat the Harbor Management Commission, and once a year, approve money for them and release any excess back into their account.
I think that,
They have some discipline.
I agree with that. I mean, Carolyn, why did you come for multi-years? Just because it's easier?
When I see that because they don't spend that much money during a year, it takes 2 years for them to get a little low in any of these categories, unless there's a catastrophic issue with the boat or whatever. And when they start to run low, and I know they're going to have expenses that would possibly exceed what they have in their operating, then I decide that, okay, now it's time to put, to put monies into their operating. Now, if you want me to do it on an annual basis rather than do it on two, I'm sure I can do that. That's not, that has never been an issue, but this is the way I've been doing it. But if you want me to change that process, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think if we're going to start treating the Harbor Management Commission with a little more rigor, we should probably treat Shellfish, and I think we should be a little more aware of how much revenue they're actually generating and what their intentions are for that. It would be nice if somebody from the Shellfish Commission came to the DEP meeting on Thursdays to answer questions like, why so much money for boats?
That's fine.
Can I ask a question? I think the documentations we were given shows that they spent about $20,000 in 1 year.
Yeah.
So that it may make sense for us to revise the dollar amount being requested, to lower it, to get it on track to the process we want, to maybe 25,000 or some number in that neighborhood. And then if they're part of our February budget process, to provide the documentation of what they would need for fiscal 19, we'd be closer to the reality. I don't want to necessarily impede their operation at this point. We haven't done the analysis, so if the number needs to be a little different.
Now, I do know that there are some things that the monies that I did put in here to cover incoming expenses. So if you would like me to submit before next Monday exactly,
Thursday,
again, how much they will need, but to bring it to close to the amount that they need isn't wise.
We're looking for the amount that they need for fiscal 18. Right, that's the amount we kind of want to
Or
approve.
we could let this go and institute that procedure
Next year.
for the fiscal 19 year.
Yeah.
Because what we did with the Harbor Commission was we lapsed the money that they hadn't spent back into their account.
I
So
see.
that then they were on a 1 year cycle.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So
I mean,
we're trying not to put them through the torture that we put all the other town departments on the
Yeah.
annual budget cycle.
Yeah.
But we are trying to begin to get a look every year at how much they
I guess this is, I've been doing it this way, maybe because maybe because I've been lazy and I figured, okay, when they run low, I'll just pad the account and then I won't have to do it for another, year or so.
No
So,
one
but
would
I
accuse you
certainly
of
can
being
change that. But I
You of all
appreciate it.
people know, not lazy. I'm inclined to leave this way.
Thank you.
Put them on the cycle so that we hear from them in February and then lapse the excess money at the end of the year, and then they'll be in sync, rather than try to come up with an estimate on the fly and almost certainly miss something.
We'd be wrong.
May I just ask Roland one question? Is there any money that's been appropriated before that, how much money do they have available in addition to the 55.5 that's been appropriated? Do you know that?
I'm not sure, I'd look at that.
Okay,
Well, if you can see on this sheet is what they have left. Is like, for example, in temporary salaries, all of the 100s we have $16,000, but when they hunt 130, but, we don't have any money in it. So, as you can see,
Well, I think that it's, I have no problem proceeding with this
Yeah.
approval at
Be
this
easier
point
for
in
me if
time.
you
And
did
then, have you think ahead
We should
to
lapse this.
whenever, next February. I mean, we don't actually have, we can do this in March, we don't, or some other month. But create a more disciplined process for these,
yeah.
in this case, I guess, F fund. is this
If I
what
can
it
only
is?
get them as disciplined as perhaps I am, I'd be in good shape. They are a little on the wild side. I get bills and little money in the account and things like that, but they're not as regimented as I would like them to be.
On the other hand, they're spending about the same 20 or 30,000 a year they were spending 10 or 12 years ago.
Well, I control their spending. Some of the things they want to spend money on, they can't by state statute. And Michael goes to the meetings on a monthly basis, so he's the representative that tries to keep them in check. But there are times when I get bills that I'm not happy with. So, but I certainly will do my best to, and I'll rectify that in the next cycle.
And I think, from this conversation, probably worthwhile to have the head of the
Yes.
commission come.
Yeah, I'd be
visit
delighted
and-
to come.
Okay, so we'll make this non-routine.
Okay,
The meeting's this Thursday because of the way the schedule's.
okay. Thank you.
So I'd move this item as non-routine.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Aye.
No, I'm going to vote against. I don't-
Voting against that.
I don't agree with the 55,000.
Okay, well, the problem is we don't have another number, and I don't want to make one up on the fly.
Right.
So we'll make it 310
Yep.
Thank you.
and see where we are.
I'm sorry, this was routine, Joe?
No.
Non-routine.
Non-routine.
Was the suggestion, so I adopted.
310.
FI1?
Yep, FI1, $8,906,434. Close out of the bond authorization.
This is housekeeping. First, I'll explain the process, and there's a couple that need further explaining, the large numbers. When you appropriate a capital project that's bonded, just hypothetically, say it's $1 million, you almost never expend exactly $1 million, and you have a balance. And let's say it's $900,000, you have $100,000. For housekeeping purposes, you're never going to borrow that $100,000, so you have to close it out, and that's what we're doing here. But there's a couple of here of significance that needs further explaining. If you look at the blue sheet page, the $2,298,000, that's the modular classrooms that we appropriated last year that we decided, because there was a scope change, to reappropriate them this year and go through the BET and the RTM. So this is housekeeping to get it off the books.
Right.
So you don't have it twice for.
So this is doing what we told the RTM we were going to do.
Exactly, yeah. Another one of significance, which kind of resided outside of our bonding program, was the Tuckman Pomerantz resolution of over $35 million that was appropriated in the year of 2000. And you go back to the days when you're on the BET, then the first selectman, et cetera. Just for the BET, on the history of it, we did some research. The purchase price on the Pomerantz property was $22 million. And the second piece was the Tuckman property, where we had an appropriation left over of $13,288,000. We negotiated a deal to buy that piece of property for $8,885,000. So the two pieces together added up to $22,008, and then there was some principal paydowns. There was cash paydowns of two pieces of $4,400,000 each. The amount of money that was never borrowed is the $4,403,000 that's on here. So it's simply housekeeping to get that appropriation off the books. Let's say that there was a third piece that was going to cost you $4 million, which is this is just I'm making it up to explain what you could have done with the balance was you had $4,403,000 left, and let's say there was a third piece to the Tuckman Pomerantz area property. you could have borrowed another $4 million because it's been authorized, but it never happened, so it's taking it off the books. And the rest of these are housekeeping. Some of them languish, they stay on for years because we need the departments to tell us that the project is officially closed. There could be old encumbrances, there could be legal action, so some of them stay out there for years. The smallest one is only $718, there are a couple dozen of them. And so we've cleaned up our books going back a number of years, so we're pretty current. And the ones that are still out there, we can't close until the departments tell us they no longer need any money to spend. Otherwise, if you prematurely eliminate this authorization and something comes up, an old bill or something surfaces, you would have to reappropriate the money. So this is just basically housekeeping, and it's not cash.
Do any of these items relate to Hamilton Avenue?
Hamilton Avenue was not bonded. Hamilton Avenue was paid through the mill rate. Hamilton Avenue has a small balance owed from the retainage by the state of Connecticut, as does Glenville School and MISA. But no, Hamilton Avenue is not a bonded project.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, just that.
Should we make this non-routine because it's size?
So
Sure.
I'll
I don't think
move,
there's any questions about it, but
I'll move for FI1 for finance, $8,906,434, bond authorization closeout. I would be happy to make this routine. It just seems to me that it's a process, and we're just, you know.
It doesn't matter. I could
Mike
answer
can
any
always
questions
change it, right.
the other 8 BET members have on Thursday.
Non-routine.
Okay, routine.
I'll second.
All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? 400.
You can handle it next one.
Okay.
Finance.
Finance, $16,000, transfer sewer tax.
This is a transfer to cover sewer taxes that we pay ourselves. In this past year, remember the assessor changed methodology for assessing properties, putting more value on the building, less on the land. The other thing that she did was take a good look at the nonprofits, including the town. And the high school, for example, doubled, even though MISA was already on the books. And this is one that significantly went up in terms of the assessed value. We didn't adjust this one item in the sewer maintenance.
Maybe you should have appealed and taken it to Larry.
Well, all I can say is $16,000 when you add a MISA at $46 million. I mean, this looks like a bargain,
But this is
as
something
well as the
that-
other issues that you were raising.
Something that was just missed when we put the budget together. We should have increased it at that time.
And on the electric service, our utility costs are coming in less than you expected?
All right, may I have a motion?
I would move the approval of this as being routine.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 400. Nathaniel Witherell, $377,000, an additional appropriation for the tower renovation project.
I just had one comment on the sewer tax for Nathaniel Witherall. They went from 19 to 38. And we are going to appeal.
Wow.
I mean, there really was a large shift towards town buildings. And even though the town is neutral, it does cost tax revenue that way.
Yes, I had a friend whose house was, the value of the building went up dramatically. They sold it, it was promptly torn down. The realtor said it's just a tear down after the higher assessment. So there are lots of these stories around. We haven't torn your building down yet.
Yet we're improving the value, but
Whoops.
you laugh about appealing. I'm thinking of appealing. And I'm sure I'm going to get a favorable response.
Well, that's Simon guy over there approves everything. You might as well make the appeal.
You might have to recuse yourself,
I
Larry.
would.
All right.
So moving along.
Talk about the $377,000 a little bit.
You want to start?
Well,
There is a project that has received BET approval for an appropriation that includes a $950,000 renovation to the tower. The renovation would include all of the public spaces on each of the 4 tower nursing units. So those include a resident living room, the hallways, the dining area, and what we're calling the personal hygiene centers, which are a bath and shower facility that includes a public bathroom and a bathroom dedicated to the dining area. We went out to bid for the project. Actually, we've gone out to bid on 3 separate occasions, and in order to complete the entire project, the bid value exceeded the amount of our budget. We actually bid on a second occasion, one of the 3 bids that we submitted through the purchasing department, to see if we could separate out some ad alternates that would eliminate the inclusion of the hygiene centers, the personal hygiene centers. And we were able to get the bid down to an amount that was slightly below our budget, but it would require that the 44-year-old bathrooms, shower facilities, and tub room not be included in the project. So we're here now, having assessed whether or not it would be prudent to delay the bathroom personal hygiene centers, and we think it would not be. Better to get it done while a contractor is on board. We did get bids for the separate aspect of the project to include the personal hygiene centers, and this $377,000 request will allow us to do the public spaces and the personal hygiene centers without having to delay to a second phase. And that's essentially it. The bathrooms are in very, very bad shape. They have not been renovated any time at all in the last 44 years since the building has been constructed. And not only are they in poor condition, but their layout is so old-fashioned that for residents who require showers, for instance, the shower rooms are so small that you can't get an aide in there to assist them without her getting wet. They're just a too small a confined space. The plumbing doesn't work well, and it sprays all over the place, and it's pretty beat up. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to see it, but it's way past time to get those done. Now, one of the motivations in doing the renovation was to appeal better to people who have private assets to spend on nursing home care. And the place looks shabby. All of the rooms have been redone as part of a separate project, so the rooms are in nice shape, but the public spaces that people see when they come in for a tour are still quite old. They were recarpeted about 6 years ago, before Project Renew started, so even the carpet, although it's 6 years, is a pretty good long run for a commercial carpet, it's in bad shape. The ceilings need to be replaced, the lighting is poor, and as I've said already, it's way past time to get this project done, to give ourselves a chance to attract people with the resources to pay for their care, and we think that we ought to be able to do the plumbing and personal hygiene center projects at the same time as we do the public spaces.
You're already doing the auditorium project?
That was a separate project with separate funding, and that project will proceed within the budget that was allocated for it.
So there aren't any more of these projects to do now? This is sort of the last.
Right. The next time we would need to do a project is when what's already been done is beyond its life. Yeah.
And the proposal here is that the Friends would raise $200,000 toward this, and
Friends have raised the 200, the Friends would give us, don't give 200,000 to the
of the
project.
money that they've raised,
Yes, and the town would appropriate
the
100.
full 377 appropriated, but 177 would be new town money.
Yes.
In what year was the 950,000 appropriated?
Fiscal year 16.
Right.
Fiscal
This is
year.
the second year. Actually, we're going into the third year.
And were you aware of this when you came to the Budget Committee, either in March, or I believe you also visited the Budget Committee in May and June also?
Yeah.
Well, you
No.
were going up, you went to bids 3 times.
Three times.
Trying to renegotiate the
Right,
money,
right.
so they.
There was a bid that would have allowed us to do the project with a particular contractor, but his process in submitting the bid was outside of our acceptable range. What he did is he bid a low bid because that's all he could get bonded. And then when we selected him as the low bidder, there was such a differentiation between the 3 other bids that we received that we invited him in to explain what was going on, and it became evident that he just put a money bid in that he thought he could get bonded, and then he asked for more money.
So they got misled.
Yeah.
So Roland Vander Peet, was this project bonded? Is this part of a bonded project, this
The
950?
950 was bonded with
950.
bonding resolution.
It was in the bonding, or it was separately approved as with the bonding resolution?
I
It
can't
doesn't,
remember.
I mean,
It was
anyway.
bonded.
Okay, they're bonded. So I think this is approved, the town's portion, the 177, is that it?
Correct, yes.
Should also come with the bonding resolution for, it's a little tight on Thursday, but with at least the spirit that it's coming. And it's my understanding from what we learned a few months ago, Pete, that that's no real cost to doing the resolutions and.
Is that what the BET wants to do?
Well, I
Or
don't know,
are you suggesting that?
that's what I'm suggesting, that may be an idea.
So you don't want them to take it out of fund balance?
I mean, it seems.
I
like
can
a-
propose an alternative.
Okay.
I mean, you could do a bond resolution for $177,000, but you've got an appropriation from last year for $7,990,000 with the intention of bringing Nathaniel Witherell whole at June 30th, so that when they close the books this week and we know what their fund balance is, which is a large negative number, we could simply take an extra $177,000 from that appropriation, give it to them so that they can get it from the fund balance instead of borrowing the money.
But isn't it better if we borrow the money than tax the taxpayers annually on this,
You've already taxed for it.
for this new money?
The $7,990,000 was taxed in 16,
But if you
17.
don't use it, it can.
Whatever the BET wants,
Issue a
is
budget.
I've just given you, presenting options. You could bond it for it, or you could take it from already appropriated money.
I was just making a suggestion of a way of not using the fund balance, especially in July and with many unknowns and not
Well,
knowing.
they have no fund balance.
They're negative.
Can I ask a question about the process on trying to address the scope of the project to get it closer to the original budget? Sounds like you didn't have much success in identifying things that you might be able to cut back on.
I don't think the original budget, which was, remember, this was developed in 2014, the fall of 2014, was accurate. Or at least, based upon the bids I saw, none of the bids were close to the original budget. The one was like 1.1 million, 1,020,000 was the first bid, which included everything. It didn't include everything either. So the bids came in a little better the third time, which is in June. And I think, the scope is what the scope is. I'm not as interested in cutting things out because it's sort of like a vision of what you want it to look like, with the bathrooms working and the whole image of the building.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting that the goal of the project be modified, but sometimes there's flexibility in how you achieve that goal.
Has this been discussed with the special committee and Nathaniel Witherall, or, I mean, you know, being out of cycle? No, I think Art is shaking his head no.
No. You adjusted the scope, you went out to bid 3 times, this is what you have at this stage. Your alternative is not to do this part of the public area, and
Do it later anyway.
A, we're going to have to do it anyway, B, it will cost more because we'll have to remobilize the contractor, and C, this is what people see when they are trying to decide whether or not to put their family member into this facility, and if we don't take care of this, they'll see it as a 44-year-old facility, having just spent all $27 million trying to bring it up to date. So I don't have much enthusiasm for at the last minute.
Neither do I.
Particularly when the Friends is paying more than half of it.
They've raised that money, the 200,000 is not just a
It's
promise.
cash in the bank,
Okay.
or at least the report says it's cash
That's
in the
kind
bank.
of money.
Okay, that's kind of.
Mr. Mason?
If we could maybe take a simple approach, we appropriate the money needed out of fund balance, for the amount they need to spend, put a book note for their revenue that's coming in to offset the 200. That's it. And at the end of the year, Nathaniel Witherall will have an increased allowance for capital spending, but it'll also have an increase in the revenue as it recognizes the gift. It just works out really simple. It's the bonding resolution and the fees that go with that whole. Just authorize them to spend the whole amount with a note for the revenue coming in.
Nancy?
With the new higher amount, which I guess is $1,327,000, does that include a contingency?
Was
How
that
much is
what?
contingency?
Contingency is 29 plus 48.
So it's 29,000.
Yeah. And plus 48,000.
So it's $1,327,000 is.
In the total,
The total budget is $1,327,000. So what's the contingency in the total, or the incremental?
total price is $1,327,000, of which 48 plus 29 is contingency.
77.
Thank you.
It's a small contingency for an old building, right?
Well, you have to, the bulk of the project is
6% contingency.
relatively easy repairs. The ceiling's going to come down, a new ceiling will go up. There's going to be painting, wallpaper stripping, and carpeting. And that's, I mean, if something goes wrong and is unexpected, that'll be a surprising outcome. Where the contingency is more likely to occur is in the bathrooms, and that's a relatively small section of the project. Excuse me.
So let me go back to Pete. You want to, I'm trying to take her comment and Michael's comment. Where do you want to get the 177,000 from?
I would prefer from Nathaniel Witherall fund balance.
And we can figure out how much we need to contribute to Witherall next budget season. No, that's going to be.
Exactly, yes.
So I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We can call it non-routine, so the questions from.
Sure.
So, Jeff?
Revisit it on Thursday. on the full 18 days.
At 5.
Hmm?
At 5.
At 5. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
3-1-0.
Wait,
Who
who's
voted
the
no?
one? You voted against?
Turkey.
Hopefully the committee's done.
We have no old business. I had asked,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. I had asked Roland to give us an opportunity to talk for a few minutes about the fiscal 19 budget process. And toward that end, he's produced 2 versions of the large spreadsheet. Because 2 two of us have to be, well, actually, quite a number of us have to be out of here in about 10 minutes. We're not going to get a chance to talk about this very much. It's 8 o'clock, they're having the Republican candidates forum.
Oh, I'll come to that.
Questions. Not open.
Is this mine?
Not open, you can't ask
Can I ask
questions.
questions?
No.
I've got some questions I'd like to ask.
I bet you do. Love it. Cruel. So the top sheet here is what I'll loosely call the usual 2% top sheet.
Pretty much it has the higher Board of Ed salary increase in the second year.
Yep.
And it assumes, budget to budget is 6 or 7% increase in healthcare.
I'm sorry, budget what? I just couldn't hear you.
6 or 7%
Okay,
increase in
thank you,
healthcare.
thank you.
So the purpose of this sheet is just to show you something comparable to what we see pretty much every year. And you can see down at the bottom that if you wanted to get to a 2% mill rate increase, you'd have to find $2,977,926. If you want to get to 1%, you'd have to find $6,681,000. This is just to give you the math and get you thinking about it. The second sheet is designed to give you something that mimics, because it's hard to make this, it mimics the budget overview memorandum from a week ago. It's hard to use that memorandum to change this particular spreadsheet. It doesn't lend itself to that. And so you'll see highlighted lines, RTM cap, RTM cap, RTM cap, which in effect take out the money that is in the 2% plan and brings us down to, when we get all done, a mill rate increase of just under 1%. And then in the corner, of course, it shows how much money that represents. Did everybody see the BOC memo?
No.
Okay. Can we get that out to, let's pick 3 or 4 of the RTM members and just send it to them. Not Drake?
BET.
Not,
I didn't get
you didn't get it. I love it. Okay. So we'll get that out to you.
Everybody, right?
Right. I won't try to explain it. It has one paragraph on the first page that gives you a summary of the primary financial conditions, and then the rest of the memo is narrative. A little tighter than it was last year, just for reference, and that's why you see these numbers here. These numbers mimic the financial impact of that memo. Okay? So we don't have much time to talk about this.
Excuse me, that all the other numbers, except these shaded ones, they all pick up exactly the same numbers on the first page, except for the totals.
That's right.
Okay, good.
That's right. Because, as I said, the way the BOC thinks of cuts doesn't lend itself to the way this spreadsheet is programmed. So we're just giving you a picture of what the impact is to get down to a 1% mill rate increase, which was what they were talking about.
I think dividing it up this way and showing it by section is very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
This can be one of the questions that I ask at your forum.
That's right, because nobody will have seen it. So you can ask a question about it. So in late August, early September, we'll be sitting down to draft the guidelines for fiscal 19. So you want to begin to think about that. so that you can provide feedback, suggestions to Mike and to me and to the other members of the Budget Committee. I think the one thing that I concluded from looking at these two spreadsheets is that well, then let me try it this way. If you look at the top spreadsheet, which is the traditional 2% approach, and you say, well, what if we wanted to have a 1% mill rate increase? You get $6.7 million roughly. But to get to 2%, you need about $3 million. Usually to get to 2% in the past, we needed to find $8, $9, $10 million. So that's a way of saying, as we suspected when we were doing last year's budget, at least as we sit right now, we're in better shape than we've been in prior years, which is interesting. Okay.
And the use of fund balance at 11.6 is not an extraordinary amount either, because at other years, we talked about numbers at 14, et cetera.
Right, 11.6 was what we used
This year.
So we pulled that number down a little bit. So I know I'm going to regret saying this, but it looks to me like we're in better shape at this point than we normally are. That will immediately lead to... Yeah, right, that immediately will lead to some kind of a disaster.
Well, by then, also, towards the end of the summer, we should have a better idea on the state budget and what else will come our way, which I think is going to be pretty critical in terms of what's happening.
We would like to know.
So you have the thought then to be increasing the capital tax of about 3%. Is that the
That's this
original
year's.
guess?
No, that's this
No,
year's.
no, it's not this year. That's a number that Roland must have reasoned through to figure out the likely capital figure.
I don't know where he got that. Ask Roland.
I will answer.
I'm sorry.
Can you ask the question in the public forum, or no?
What's that?
He was just asking if he's
No, I'll be glad to.
He thought I had done something that I...
No, I wasn't accusing you at all. I just wanted to understand.
No, he thought I'd made a calculation, which I hadn't made, so don't know where that number came
Okay,
from.
I couldn't hear the
We need a
conversation.
motion to approve the minutes from the prior meeting.
Yeah, I would
So
make that
moved.
motion. Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I move to adjourn. Is that what you want, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Second.
Aye.